And for more on all of this, we turn to California Congressman Adam Schiff, the ranking Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee. He joins us via Skype from Washington, D.C. Congressman Schiff, nice to have you back on the program.
Thank you. Great to be with you.
You led the hearings this week where executives of Facebook, Google, and Twitter all testified about how their companies were used as tools for a broad Russian misinformation campaign. How would you assess the testimony from those companies?
Well, I think it was very important because the American people got to see for the first time what these ads look like, just how cynical they are, and just how the Russians skillfully use these platforms to propagandize us during the election, but also to just drive wedges between Americans. And indeed, that effort hasn't stopped. It continues in the form of advertising, for example, or promotion or content that the Russians are pushing out on the NFL, for example, the president and instigating the whole kneeling controversy or giving that greater fuel. So it goes on, and I think the tech companies helped us expose that to the American people.
So what steps do you think the companies, Facebook, Google, and Twitter, should take to make sure this doesn't happen again?
Well, they have to be better prepared next time. I think it took them for a long time to realize the Russians were even doing this on their platforms. But now they are forewarned, and they're, I think, developing the mechanisms to try to spot this earlier. We'll also need to develop better cooperation between the intelligence community and the tech companies so that they can be alerted when the intelligence community has identified Russian bad actors that are abusing their platforms. But part of what we're trying to get at is what kind of mechanisms are the companies developing? How confident are they in their forensic capabilities? Do they need to gather more information from their users to prevent this kind of abuse? What about the fact that some of these algorithms themselves may heighten divisions in American society? And what obligation do they have to look at those questions that go well beyond foreign interference?
Did you hear anything at the hearings that would suggest to you that they have the mechanisms and that they have the will to put them in place as well? Because, as you know, a lot of these sites, part of their business model is to make things as widespread and viral and addictive as possible.
Well, that's exactly right. And I think that part of the question that we need to answer, and I don't think we got a complete answer during the hearing, is what steps are they going to take, or do they acknowledge the effect of the algorithms? That is, that things that make us angry or fearful tend to take flight. Stories that tend to percolate to the top of our news feeds may include things that are patently false. They're not rising because they're true. They're rising because the algorithms tell them that we'll be interested and spend more time on the platform if we see it.
There have been many developments this week in Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigation. We have the 2 indictments against Paul Manafort and Rick Gates, a plea bargain with the former campaign advisor George Papadopoulos, and now President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, has been turning over documents to Mr. Mueller as well. What is your reaction to all these developments?
Well, I think they're very significant in different ways. Manafort's allegations are very significant because he was the campaign manager, central player in the campaign, who was, if you believe the indictment, laundering money even during the campaign. And moreover, there are allegations that during the campaign he was making outreach to the same sources of this laundered money, seeking more of it in exchange for information he was ready to provide about the campaign. Papadopoulos goes directly to the issue of collusion. He also goes to the issue of dishonesty, because we have seen time and time again Trump campaign people and administration officials being less than honest with the public about their contacts with the Russians. In this case, the Russians made a direct approach to a foreign policy advisor of the campaign and again made it clear before the country was aware, maybe even before our own agencies were largely appreciative of the fact that the Russians had hacked Democratic computers.
And President Trump and Attorney General Jeff Sessions have said repeatedly they know of no one from the Trump campaign who had contacts with Russians during the election. But court documents released this week show that Papadopoulos had frequent discussions with Russians in 2016. He touted them in front of President Trump and also Mr. Trump and Mr. Sessions back then. How do you interpret all that?
Well, moreover, we had a hearing yesterday with Carter Page, and Carter Page has now acknowledged publicly that he told then Senator Sessions that he was just about to go to Moscow. So it does beg a lot of questions about why there has been so much deception, dissembling, you name it, when it comes to the campaign's contacts with the Russians. But more fundamentally, it just shows the extraordinary degree of connections between a hostile foreign power and a presidential campaign. That has never been the case. And of course, that begs the biggest question of all, which is why? Why were there these intimate connections with the campaign?
Congressman Schiff, House Republicans released their tax plan this week. What is your view of how that plan would affect Californians?
Well, one thing we know for sure, it brings corporate rates down. It also brings rates down for, very, very wealthy families that have large estates like the Trumps. In terms of middle-class families, though, if you're a middle-class family in a state like California, it is likely to give you a very big tax increase because it would limit your mortgage interest deduction. It'll prevent you from deducting your state and local taxes. And so millions of Californians are going to get a whopping tax increase if this becomes law. It will also chill the housing industry. It'll prevent people from deducting student loan interest, so it will hurt students that have borrowed to pay their way through higher education. It's a pretty big loser. We could do a much better bill that simplifies the tax code and provides relief to small businesses. This isn't it. The biggest beneficiaries, quite literally the biggest beneficiaries of this tax bill, will be the Trump family.
All right. Well, this is certainly just the first step. I expect there will be much more debate on this tax bill in the months to come. Congressman Adam Schiff, ranking Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.